Thank you very much. I've been told that we're pressed for time because we have to get to lunch. And the truth of the matter is that we gained a tremendous amount over this weekend, and I want to focus a little bit on what we've gained. When we first came in, they had these two types of ravioli and the ziti, and then there was the falafel table over there, and all right, this is silly. You remember all the food. There are still people chazering it over, you know. You remember that, you know, that was great, yeah. But this is just an unbelievable event. I was told that the convention was sold out months in advance, and I said that's because people heard I was coming. Now, I learned my lesson because I was at Pesach at Gateways for 2 years, and then, you know, he says to me, do you have any idea how much you cost? You know, bringing in your family and everything, you know? And I said, yeah, I don't know why you have me. You should just bring in an old couple. And that was the last time I was ever called. So I learned my lesson. This convention is because of me. Halavai. Everybody and his brother is here, you know? It's unbelievable. People said to me, how do you choose? You look over the list of people, this rabbi, this speaker, that one. How do you decide which class to go to? It's so difficult. I didn't want to go to my own. I have so many other good ones to go to. I had no choice. I had to, you know? But it's like, mamish, everybody who's anybody is here at this convention, and I just have to say this one thing. Chari Harari, you have a job, okay? You know, you're a lawyer. You have a real job. Why are you taking work away from us hardworking rabbis who can't do anything else? I got to compete with doctors and lawyers and accountants. Give me a break, you know? Anyway, so that's why they put me here at the end, because I have never been at a convention where I talk this little. The only time I get to speak this little is when I'm with my children. But we were once supposed to go away someplace for Pesach. The first time we were going to go to a Pesach hotel. And I said, I don't think my kids are going to want to leave, you know. So I said to them, listen, we have this offer to go to America for Pesach. And they're like, yay, we're going to America. I said, no, it's not going to be with Bobby and Zadie. We're going to go to a hotel. Yay, we're going to a hotel. I said, does anyone want to hear what I have to say? They said, no. I said, we're only being invited because people want to hear what I have to say. How come here nobody wants to hear what I have to say? They said to me, Abba, we're going with you or without you? I said, they don't want you. Do you understand? So this is at the end of a convention where, you know, just so many people are speaking, and I just don't know if I'm going to stop. So forget about lunch. Anyway, all right, let's get down to important business. Yeah? This is Adar. Misha nichnas Adar marbim b'simcha. The Gemara says, Ein bein Adar rishon la'Adar sheni ella, and it turns out everything. Kriyas Megillah, Matanis Levyonim, Shalach Manis, the Su'uda. The only thing they have in common is Simcha, right? And there's this concept of Simcha. I don't know if you're old enough to remember when Purim was fun. It was a long time ago, yeah? Young people have no idea what it means anymore because everything has gotten out of control, you know? My kid was 2 years old going off to Gan, so my wife has to make him a costume. 2 years old! So she takes like a red jogging suit. She sort of looked royal, you know, took an apron, tied around his neck as a cape, you know, and got him a little crown out of aluminum foil, put on some makeup. I mean, the kid's 2 years old. The van pulls up with like the cast from some Hollywood, you know, costume drama, you know. My kid's mouth drops open, you know. He's still traumatized to this day, you know. The costumes have gotten completely out of control, you know. Remember when they had groggers? Those little groggers, rig. You know, it's cute, you know. Now there's like some guy with an 8-foot wooden grogger, grog, you know. And they've got the cap guns, the explosive devices, you know. Things are going off. Halfway through the Megillah, you don't care about Haman. You want to kill that kid. You know what I mean? Like, you know. Forget about drinking. Now, people used to have a couple of drinks, they were a little tipsy. Now people are sick drunk. You never saw such a thing, you know? Rabbi Moshe Shapiro said that until you're 40, you shouldn't drink because nichnas yayin yotza sod. You know, that when you go in, what's inside of you comes out. And most people don't have anything worthwhile to offer till they're 40. I added to that, most of the stuff that does come out should have stayed in the first place. So, saigashmi sairuchnius, yeah? So it's really an amazing thing. But the only thing that Adar, Aleph and Adar Sheni have in common is, of course, Simcha. And I want to tell you a story that I think is an amazing story. I was teaching Mesilas Yesharim, Perek Hay, where he talks about Simcha, and he brings a pasuk, Simcha Maza Oisa. So I told the story. The Miami Boys Choir wanted to do a concert in Yerushalayim. So they went to the Badats of the Eda Charedis to ask Rishus for a concert. They never heard of it. Mazet concert. So he says, you bring everybody together, you mach lebedik, you simcha. They said, Simcha shel ma? Simchas chasen v'kala? Simchas siyam ha-masechta? Simchas, beisa shoeva? Eze min simcha zeh? So they made it in Tel Aviv. But... But I said, there was such an unbelievable concept, because this opens up the concept now that we have today, of course, of Jewish entertainment, kosher entertainment. We always had kosher entertainment. It was called a magid. He'd come to town, he'd give you mussar and collect money. That was called entertainment, Now you have to have a show, I don't want to mention who it is, because people might know who it is, but it is a pretty well-known performer who was actually in my class in Yeshiva Gedolah. And we were someplace, and he was doing a concert, and he said to his kids, would your father come? All right. So I come to this concert. I'd never really been to a concert, He's putting on costumes. He's rollerblading. He's throwing things out into the audience. He's carrying on, I said, what is this? He says, because nobody's going to come to hear people sing. You want to see that, then go watch Dvekas in concert, They had this once at the Haas concert. A.B. Rottenberg sat at a piano, and everybody else stood like this. Shalom, shalom, Rav. And then they stopped, and he played the piano, and they all stood, No, people want to see dancing. They want to see you carrying on. They want to, Rav Schrebel is here. That's why I wanted to throw in my Vegas thing. Anyway, but it's the, entertainment. We have to be excited, So I went on what my students call a rant. I call it an in-depth analysis of society's problems. And I said, what is with music today? Anybody remember when there was Jewish music? You have to be old enough. I remember when it died. I was there. I remember when Jewish music died. Yeah? Until then, everything was like, there was a guitar and an accordion and a drummer, and every song ended the same way. You know what I mean? Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Bum, bum, bum. That was it. That was Jewish music, I remember they wanted to ban the rabbi's sons because it was too rocky. They would really hit the guitar. Mi ha'ish echave. That was really wild. But then I remember that a performer, I don't want to mention any names, but he decided to take the Eurovision Song Contest winner, which was a German song by a rock group called Genghis Khan, and put Yiddish words to it. Yeah, if you remember this. So you'd be at the usual chasna where everybody was dancing like this, basically undulating, you know what I mean? If it was a real exciting group, they changed directions, you know what I mean? That was about it, And then all of a sudden the band would go, and everybody over the age of 30 got off the dance floor, and they did the Yidden dance. And everyone's like, buses, dust, and that was the beginning of the end, And so now you have a group, of, Hasidic singers, and they're singing, and then all of a sudden they take the guitars and start smashing it, what I mean? And jumping up and down, lying on the ground, It somehow got wrong. And the amazing thing is about this music is you have to blast it. You can't play it, you have to blast it, I'm at the age now where we look forward to the 3 weeks. It's the happiest time of the year, It's just, it's totally out of control, So I'm discussing society's issues with the girls, and I said, Simcha Shama, what are these concerts? What is this all about? And a girl gave me an answer that was so poignant and painful that it made such an impression on me. I share it with you now. She said, because our lives are so unhappy, we need a reason to be happy. We have to find a reason to be happy, right? I have a reputation for presenting things in a humorous way. So people will sometimes stop me on the street and they say, Rabbi Orlofsky, tell me a joke. I'm unhappy. I don't have any jokes. I just share what's going on in the world around us. And that's if it's funny, it's funny. But, but I'm so unhappy. Tell me something to make me happy. Where's this unhappiness coming from? Why isn't there this excitement? Everybody knows the Rejection, he's a beautiful shmooze, where Paro says to Yaakov, how old are you? And he says, I'm 130, but I look old because I had a hard life. And Hashem says, he had such a hard life, I'll take away 1 year for every word. That's Rejection, but he also lost words for Paro's question. He says, because if somebody looks at you as a frum Jew and says, why do you look unhappy? That is a condemnation of everything we stand for. Why aren't we happy? Where's the lack of satisfaction coming from? So I want to focus on perhaps one aspect of Purim, which, as I mentioned, is din of Simcha, both others. And if you want, I'll give you the Rosh Hashiva look. Anyway, that's for my Gadol card if it ever comes out. Anyway. See what you can trade that for. Anyway. I did a tour to Prague, and they said, what's the exchange rate here? I said, they use krones. I said, 6 krones to a frand, 2 frands to an Orlofsky. Anyway. Anyway. I love it when you tell a joke like that and you see everybody explaining it to each other, because I really feel those kind of jokes bring Klal Yisrael together, and I think that's nice. Anyway. So you understand the one aspect of Purim that I want to try to focus on, and that is the beautiful minhag of Shalach Manos. I say the beautiful minhag of Shalach Manos when, of course, like everything else, it's gotten taken completely out of proportion. You remember when Shalach Manos was like a nice thing where, you'd make a Shalach Manos and send it to somebody, when I was growing up, we never needed a theme. My kids get into a panic a month beforehand. What's our theme? I said, how about Purim? We'll make hamantashen, put in a bottle of wine, and send. No. But it has to be a color. Yellow, green, blue. We've done all these colors themes already. Last year, Shushan Purim, I'm in there, so Shushan Purim came out on Friday. They did Black Friday. Everything had to be black. That was joyous. Anyway, but has to have a color, has to have a theme. Orlofsky, everything looked like a heart, you know what I mean? And there's this panic, there's be a theme, so that, and it gets more and more out of control, Somebody sends you like the Mishkan made out of chocolate, you know what I mean? And with movable kalim and stuff, Someone once sent me one of these things, they made all these little chocolate things. I made the mistake of eating one of them. They had a heart attack, I said, why would you send me a Shalach Manos that I can't eat, you know what I mean? Donate it to a museum, But there's, that's the different kind of things. They send you fancy ones, not so fancy ones, And then you show up someplace and you realize you're not on their list, And they quickly, take a Shalach Manos and give it to you. And you realize it's yours that you gave to somebody else, And it still has the card in it, But that's okay, because you like your stuff better anyway, so, So you get back to Shalach Manos, and, you wonder if it's getting out of control. Rabbi Scheinberg had a sefer on Mishmar Shaila, it's called Mishmeres Chaim. And he asked the question like this: can you give a Shalach Manos as a matana amanas lahachzir? In halacha, you have a concept that I can give you something as a matana, and it's yours as long as you give it back to me. So I give you a Shalach Manos on condition that you give it back to me. Then you only have to make one Shalach Manos. You make the rounds. And you go around, Nobody wants it anyway, so it's like, this way, everybody, this is it, take it back, So he paskins no. He paskins no because the purpose of Shalach Manos is to make Shalom ben Ish l'Reyehu. It's to be able to create Achdus, to be able to make reyus. And if you create something that in of itself just makes a person feel bad, then it can't possibly be the mitzvah of Shalach Manos. That's the answer that he gives. So it's interesting. I thought of speaking about this because outside is the display of the Project Inspire Shalach Manos, where they want you to go over and reach out to somebody and send them a Shalach Manos, somebody who might otherwise not get one, and use this as an opportunity of creating this shalom. So I want to try to speak about this idea a little bit if I can. Yeah, the Shlah HaKadosh has a famous expression that everyone's familiar with. Yom Kippurim. The Torah refers to Yom Kippur as Yom Kippurim, and the Shlah darshans Yom Kippurim is a Yom Kippurim. It's a day like Purim. On Yom Kippur, when you are dressed in white, and you're standing in shul, and you're fasting, you're standing as much as you can like a malach. You're in this unbelievable madrega. You can almost reach the level that you can on Purim when a bunch of drunken people are getting sick on your furniture. Almost. You're almost on that level. How do we understand such a thing? Yeah? So he says like this, a very important concept. There's a concept, Gemara in Shabbos tells us, that the Kabbalas HaTorah that took place on Purim was greater than the Kabbalas HaTorah that took place on Shavuos. On Shavuos, it's Mamad Har Sinai. We saw the sounds and we heard the sights, and we're on this unbelievable prophetic level. And Moshe Rabbeinu was standing there, and we hear HaKadosh Baruch Hu speak, and there was a greater Kabbalas HaTorah on Purim. How could that be? So he says, the Or Chaim HaKadosh tells us there are 3 prerequisites to receiving the Torah. That's he dashes from the Pasuk, at the beginning of Perek Yutes and Shmos, where he goes through, you had to be in Bamidbar, because the Midbar was a place where there wasn't Taivas and there wasn't Gashmias, and all the different things he goes through. One of the things that the Or Chaim HaKadosh says is a prerequisite is Achdus. V'yachanu Bamidbar, v'yichan sham, Ish echad b'lev echad, the Gemara darshans. We became like one person, Achdus. We could not have received the Torah without Achdus. Now, when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense, right? We've all heard this. There are 600,000 Jews who receive the Torah, and there are 600,000 letters in the Torah, both of which are not true. Both statements are not true. 600,000 were the men between the ages of 20 and 60. It does not count the women, who are mentioned first, Kosomar Lebeis Yaakov v'Saged Lebnei Yisrael. It doesn't count the women. It doesn't count people under 20. It doesn't count people over 60. The number 600,000 didn't include Moshe and Aaron. They were 80. They were out of the count. But conceptually, there were 600,000 people. Just as conceptually, there are 600,000 letters, because there are actually 304,730. No one knows? 2. Anyway, this kid is waiting by the payphone. He's waiting for a call, and a call comes in, and a guy says, "Hi, could you get the Bacher Weinberg?" So he says, I can't. I'm waiting for a phone call. Get off the phone. What are you wasting my time for? He says, "Do you know who this is?" He says, "No." He says, "This is the Rosh Hashiva." The boy says, "Do you know who this is?" He says, "No." He says, "Good." Hangs up the phone. So if you don't know, then take my word for it. 730. I don't know. They'll check it out later, They'll say, "Oh, you weren't completely accurate." But that didn't stop anybody at the Republican debate. So anyway, they always have these fact checks afterwards, But anyway, so there are 304,000 and something letters, right? So, okay, so some of the letters, a ches is really 2 zayins, a taf is really a resh and a nun. You could break it down. But there's a message here that's more important than the technical fact, and that is there are 600,000 people and 600,000 letters because every single yid is a letter in the Sefer Torah. And if you're missing a letter in the Sefer Torah is puzzle. And I don't care if it's the big ayin in Shema, or for the people who really know how to pronounce it, Shema, the ayin. And I don't care if it's the Vav and Vayomer Hashem and Moshe Lemar. Every single letter is essential, and every Yid is a letter in the Sefer Torah. And if you're missing one, you're choser. Therefore, Achdus is essential because you have an essential part of my Torah. I need you if I'm going to get Torah. So therefore, everybody has to be together, right? Okay, so we stand at Har Sinai and we have an Achdus. But it wasn't an Achdus like we had on Purim. It was an Achdus like we have on Yom Kippur. What is the Achdus that we have on Yom Kippur? People are not fighting. That was the Achdus we had in Shavuos. Vayisu mirafidim, says the Kli Yakar. You can reverse letters. Works out well for me because I'm dyslexic, so I do it anyway. So he says you can reverse the resh and the pei, refidim, and make it predim, like you threw with keves and kesev, yeah? So refidim becomes predim. They were parad, they were separate. So you remove that. Yisu mirafidim, they stop fighting. That's what happens on Yom Kippur. We don't fight, chas v'shalom. There's that beautiful minhag before Yom Kippur. It is so heartwarming to watch, where people go around and say, "Do you meichel me? Do you meichel me? Do you meichel me? Do you meichel me? Do you meichel me?" And somebody who you really hurt, say, "Do you meichel me?" I don't know if I can. Do you meichel me? Yeah, well, I don't know if you really feel bad. Do you meichel me? I'm trying to tell you. All right, 3 times. Now it's your avera. Heartwarming. It's heartwarming. It's so beautiful to watch. Nobody fights unless, of course, you take my seat. Then I can kill you by law. You understand? Actually, it's Yom Kippur. People don't actually, tell you to get out of their seat. They daven right next to you. Like leaning on you. Is this your seat? Yeah, but that's okay. You can sit there if you want. We don't fight. Yom Kippur, we don't fight. But there's not a desperate need for each other. Yeah? At Shavuos, we weren't fighting. We all stood together, but we didn't desperately need each other. There is nothing that brings people together like knowing we're all going to die tomorrow. You're going to die tomorrow? Me too. You can go first. I believe it was Samuel Adams who said, "Gentlemen, if we do not hang together, we shall surely hang separately." Yeah? People understood, I need you. There's a desperate need for each other. And therefore, when we go into Purim, Purim is interactive. I'm not much of a drinker, I'm high on life. Anyway, but you see there, people start drinking. I don't know how this, I don't know about yeshiva guys, and they come over to you and they go, "Oh," they throw their arms around you and they're like sweating all over you and they're rubbing their nose on you. "You're my best friend in the world," And you're like, "I'm going to have to burn this suit. I'm not even sending it to the cleaners. I'm finished." They're all over you. It breaks down all those inhibitions. It gives you that feeling. What is shalach manas? Ideally, shalach manas is you eat what I like, and I'll eat what you like. This has taught me to try to develop classy friends. There's one guy in Harnof who gives out sliced roast beef. I've worked hard at maintaining this relationship. I tried to get rid of all my bumba people, you know what I mean? Bag of bumba and a couple of loose nuts. Sounds like it's okay. Keep going, I'm not giving you one of my theme shalach manas for that, You know how it is that everyone knows what they like, and they like their own stuff, and nobody wants to, step outside of their comfort zone, right? For me, that of course means sushi. I have never gotten sushi. I don't understand what it's all about. Every frum person today, by law in America, has to eat sushi. Wherever we go, they serve sushi and spicy fries, and that's it. That's where American Jewry has gone, But to my idea, fish should be cooked and served on a plate and not wrapped up in sticky rice. But it's at these moments that my kids roll their eyes at me and say, "Abba, you don't get it," and I don't. I really don't. There's so much stuff I just don't get, and my kids know it, my sons, they buy themselves a suit. Okay, they have to find the right suit, depending on the time of year and the styles, 3 buttons, 5 buttons, 12 buttons, 19 buttons, you know what I mean? But once they get that suit, they will wear that suit until it disintegrates on their body, until there's nothing but suit molecules being held together by pure will. My daughters, I have 8 of them, exactly, yeah. That's why when we make a simcha, it's a tragedy, trust me, I have to outfit 9 women, yeah? And there is no one continent that has clothes for all of them, So they'll wait till they find something really ridiculously expensive that I hate. That's one of the prerequisites. I have to hate it. Because if I don't let them buy it, they'll continue wearing that long, ratty skirt that's like falling apart. And they're like, I have nothing else to wear, So they buy this ridiculously expensive outfit. They wear it 3 times and will never wear it again. Because it's not me. I said, of course it's not you. You're a carbon-based life form, and this is an article of clothing. And they roll their eyes at me and say, Abba, you don't get it. I don't get it, yeah? I don't get sushis. A lot of things I don't get, yeah? But, okay, people know what they like. People know what they enjoy, Now take the food that you like and give it to somebody else and eat what they like. This is always a frightening experience, For my fellow Ashkenazim in the room, when you go someplace and they serve you a cholent and you take a potato and it's really an egg. And you're like, there's an egg in my cholent. How did this happen? That is not supposed to happen. In a world where God runs everything on a fair level, But people have different tastes. We it's tam v'reach when it comes to taste, And malavakech, nothing to fight about. Everybody has a different sense of taste. I can't say what's right and what's wrong. Yeah, I can say what I like, but I can't say that that's right or what's wrong. Comes Purim, I say, learn to appreciate what I like. Yeah, Rabbi Leff tells a story where he was going to eat by Moroccans in Eretz Yisrael, where they still make them right, the old style ones. And he says, listen, I'm just a poor Ashkenazi from Cleveland, I went to Tells, I can't eat this stuff. He goes, don't worry, we'll tell you if it's spicy. He says, they bring out this fish with this red sauce, and look at her, and he goes, fine. He says, and I put a spoonful of this fire in my mouth, and I feel my palate burn away. I drank without exaggeration an entire gallon of water, And she looks at me and says, Avol zeh tafel. You understand? That was mild, you know what I mean? Because it's different things. Did you ever pick up a plate of like green peppers and realize they were jalapeno? I still have nightmares. But, but there are people who enjoy very spicy food. There are people who enjoy all kinds of different things, I was here Friday night. There was, a treat that you don't always get, gribbiness, which you don't supposed to eat. Put it right inside of your artery. Don't cut out the middleman. Just stick it right in there. In fact, don't even eat it. Just go straight for the bypass. You know what I mean? Just don't even. What are you going to do? But people like it. Tam v'reach. What are you going to do? People have different tastes. People have different things that they appreciate. Shalach manas is step outside of my comfort zone. I want to enjoy what you enjoy, and I want you to enjoy what I enjoy, because that ultimately is the key to everything. Not that I can appreciate that there are people who are different. Can you understand where I'm coming from? Can you understand it? It says, famous story from Ari Levin, the tzaddik of Yerushalayim, right? A tzaddik in our time, the famous biography. There was a makolet owner that was staying open into Shabbos. He was staying open for a few hours into Shabbos. So people were protesting, people were this, but that. So Ari Levin shows up one Erev Shabbos, and he's already dressed for Shabbos, and he comes and he stands in the store. Now everybody, not from, they loved Rabbi Levin. So he says, Rebbe, can I get something for you? He says, no, that's okay. He says, you need anything? He says, no. And he's just standing there. So eventually he says, Rebbe, can I get you a chair? He says, sure. takes a chair and he sits there. And he sees it's licht benching, people coming in and buying. And it's shkia, people coming and buying. And it's seis, and people coming in and buying. And finally, an hour or two after seis, the guy gets ready to close up. And Rabbi Levine is still sitting there. He says, Rebbe, what was it? What did you need? He says, I heard there was a Yid in Yerushalayim who opened up his store on Shabbos. And I said, everybody's protesting. Does anyone understand what he's going through? Does anyone know what his nisayon is? I want to see it for myself. And Taka, it's unbelievable. You made so much money in these past few hours. It must be such a terrible nisayon for you. A b'Shabbos is Shabbos. And he says, Rebbe, you're the first one who tried to understand where I'm coming from. For you, I'll stop. Understand? Because he didn't do anything but understand. I'm going to quote a secular book, but Rabbi Orlofsky says there's a lot of wisdom in it, so I feel comfortable quoting it. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So one of the habits is seek to understand before trying to be understood. Try to understand the other person. There was a girl who came to Eretz Yisrael to learn in seminary, and parents made her sign a contract that she would not ask to come back for Shana Bet. They felt it was very important for her to get on with her life and go to college, and that's second year, right? To come back for a second year. But she changed her mind. Kids do that sometimes. Sometimes even adults do that. And even though she signed the contract, she wanted to come back for a second year, and she asked her parents, and they said, there's nothing to discuss. Nothing to discuss. So she was going for Pesach, and she was very upset, and she said, what do I do? So somebody gave her advice. They said, let your parents see that you're unhappy. Now, this was a kid who never walked around without a smile on her face. Never. And she somehow managed to look unhappy. I don't know how she did it, but she managed. Anyway, she comes back to her to finish up the year, and her mother says to her, listen, I'm sorry that you're unhappy, but you just have to learn to accept it. So he says, you should talk to one of your rabbis and have them explain it to you. She says, okay, Mom, maybe you should explain to one of my rabbis why I can't come back for Shana Bet. He says, I'll be happy to. He says, why don't you talk to Rabbi Orlofsky? Sure. So she calls me up and says, listen, my mom's going to call you. You have to convince her to let me come back for Shana Bet. I said, okay, no problem. So Mom calls me up, and she says, listen, I told her she can't come back for Shana Bet. I told her that she has to go back to college. I explained everything to her beforehand. She signed a contract. She knows this is how we feel. I said, I understand. He says, and I, no matter what anybody says, I really believe it's in her best interest to come back and for her to go back to college and not to stay for a second year. I said, I understand. And she said, but she's so unhappy. And I said, listen, as parents, sometimes we have to do what we think is right for our children, even if they're unhappy. If a kid is playing with a knife, you're going to take the knife away from them, even though they're going to cry, You have to put a kid into a car seat, I'm talking about younger parents, My youngest kid is 10 years old. My oldest daughter told my wife that she's closer in age to my wife than she is to her youngest brother. This kid is, he was an uncle 3 times at birth, So, when you get old, you just don't have the patience, So you're like, stop that. No. All right. Wait, stop, come back. Forget about it. But anyway, you have to strap a kid into a car seat, even if the kid is crying, even if the kid is unhappy, you got to do what's in their best interest. And the mother starts crying. And she says, but she's so unhappy, but it's so hard to see her like this. And I said, I understand, but you're doing the right thing, and how could you be wrong by doing the right thing, and et cetera, et cetera. And anyway, this was most of the conversation, me making the mother feel better about her decision not to let her daughter come back. I hung up the phone, and my wife said, what did you do? I said, seek first to understand before being understood. This mother is sure that a bunch of rabbis are going to call her up and yell at her and tell her what to do, and et cetera, et cetera. And I don't want to do that. I want her to know that I understand and appreciate where she's coming from. And then afterwards, we could have another conversation. The girl comes to me the next day and says, I don't know what you did. My mom said I can come back for Shana Bet. And I said, well, you have to understand people. And, I have no idea what I did. All I did was validate her position. All I did was make her be understood. The secret to Kiruv is to be able to find the tzaddik in every person. And we have so little patience for people, for from people, for non-from people, for our family, for everybody. We get annoyed so easily, you know. Somebody gave me a bungalow up in the mountains one summer, my family. This was a special treat for my wife, who had grown up in bungalows. I grew up going to resort hotels. Bungalows were for like refugees who had no place to go, and you have to sleep in the kitchen, you know what I mean? And, you know, I called my brother. He says, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm in a bungalow." He says, "Really?" So what are you doing? I said, "Sitting on the porch listening to myself sweat," you know. But from here I can see the circle that women are forced to sit in all day, in the circle in the middle of the thing there, and pretend to listen to each other, so. And it was just amazing, They go to a bungalow colony, So so I was up there. So Erev Shabbos, I had to go to one of the bakeries there to buy some things, whatever it is. And I had a 15-passenger van. I know, we're a big family, And I'm waiting for somebody to pull out. And people were pulling out back in very, very quickly. And I have a 15-passenger van. I can't maneuver it so well. And I finally managed to maneuver it in. And this other guy pulls in right next to me, close enough so that I can't open my door, lowers his window and says, "If you don't know how to drive, then you should stay off the road." He goes off to buy his things for Shabbos. And my daughter, who was 12, looks at me and says, "Someone should give that man a potch." And I said, "It's just sad. It's just so sad, And you see this over and over again, where people have such little tolerance for other people. I'm not even talking about the non-from people. I'm talking about from people. We have no patience. We have no appreciation. We don't step into their shoes. I told somebody once, I said, before you fight with somebody, walk a mile in their shoes. The person said to me, "Yeah, then you're a mile away and you've got their shoes." So, where they can't fight with you. Anyway, but do we really step into the other person's, life? Do we appreciate who they are? I don't remember what I say from time to time because when I'm busy speaking, I can't listen. But there's a famous story with the Chavetz Chaim. Where the Chavetz Chaim was in an inn, and there's this big, burly Russian soldier who comes in, and he sits down, and he's acting disgusting, and he's speaking disgusting, and hasnish. So someone goes over to the Chavetz Chaim and says, "Maybe you could say something to this man, like put a whammy on him and turn him into a frog or something, do something with this man." The Chavetz Chaim comes over to the man and says, "What a tzaddik you are. All those years in the Russian army and you never converted." And the big burly Russian soldier starts to cry, and he says, "Rebbe, you don't know what they did to me. They took me away from my family when I was 5 years old. This is what they used to do. Take you for 20 years into the army." He says, "And they used to beat me, and they starved me. They put me in a tiny little stone box. I couldn't sit down. I had to stand there in the freezing cold without a blanket. All they would do was torture me, but I knew I was a Jew, and I would never give it up." The Chavetz Chaim managed to bring this guy back. I was talking once to a rabbinical training program. I told this story over, and somebody said, "What a great line." Like, let me jot that down in case I ever meet a big burly Russian soldier. What a tzaddik you are. All those years, I said, it wasn't a line. That's pshat ayin toiv. Ayin toiv means that you look at someone and you see the tzaddik inside of them. There's no trick to seeing bad in people. There's plenty of bad in people. You want to find why somebody's no good? It's very easy to find bad in people. People who are singing in the middle of my speech. It's not hard to find bad in people. There's a seminary in Israel where there are 5 girls who apply for every spot. 5 girls apply for every single spot. So they have to reject 4 out of 5 girls. It's not hard. You can always find a reason to reject somebody. There's a problem with them. There's a problem with their mother, a problem with their sister, a problem with their aunt, a problem with this. And if there isn't, you make up one. It's not a problem. Somebody came over to me once and told me about one of my kids that they were mechutzif to one of the teachers, and they made them cry, and they were so upset. And I came home. I was younger then. I was so upset. I came home and I said to my daughter, how could you do something like this and that? It wasn't exactly like that. You know the story? Guy says, hey, I heard you won $100 playing dice. Because it wasn't dice, it was cards. It wasn't $100, it was $10. And I didn't win it, I lost it. But otherwise you got the story right, My daughter says to me, it wasn't a teacher, it was the swimming chug. And I didn't say anything to her. I just told her I didn't want to go into the water, and she got very upset, Which I think if you can't handle a kid who doesn't want to go into water, you really shouldn't be a swimming instructor, But if that gets you all upset, But the story got out of control, and the story multiplies. So to reject somebody is very easy. I had in the last panel we were on, I was with Rabbi Dr. Yaakov Solomon, who, if you didn't have the schus of hearing him speak this weekend, then you missed out on one of the great treats of being at Project Inspire. And we had a disagreement. I was right. He was wrong. I say that with tremendous respect. But it was a question of the state, of Klal Yisrael, And he's an optimist, and he sees things from a positive point of view, and I can admire that from a distance. But unfortunately, I have to deal with a lot of the problems that come up in Klal Yisrael, and a lot of the things that are going wrong, unfortunately. And I see a lot of things that are going wrong. So I was, every Thanksgiving weekend, I go to Europe, and the Siva Stores sends me to Europe, to a different city, where, basically, there's somebody else who is the tour guide, somebody else gives the Torah content of the place we're in, and I just come along with everybody and have fun. That's my job, and I do it well. And, we go to places where we stay in fancy hotels, and they fly in a chef, and we have plenty of time for shopping, and we all find it spiritually uplifting. So that's my idea of roughing it. My idea of roughing it is sleeping with only 2 pillows. So that's where we go to Europe. So I usually do a question and answer Motzi Shabbos, and there was one trip, Motzi Shabbos, every question was basically the same. How come my kids are getting turned off by the educational system? This was all from people, all unzumenschen. What's going wrong? And there's a lot of answers to this question. I'll tell you what the one answer that I think is incorrect. There's no problem, everything's fine. I think that's a mistake. I said, I'll tell you what I think the problem is. I started in the Hebrew Academy of Nassau County in 1964, which according to my revised biography was 15 years before I was born. I figure if Superman can get a reboot, so can I. But anyway, when I started there, Orthodoxy was dead in America. Everybody knew it was dead. It was a given it was dead. Conservative Judaism was taking over everything. Orthodoxy was for old men, and people in the Lower East Side and the South Bronx, and it was all dying out. And that was it. If you decided to go to a yeshiva, you were a hero. I was a hero. There wasn't a havamina to throw us out. There weren't enough of us. You had to keep you there. If you did something really bad, the principal would call you into the office and sigh. I know your family. They're such nice people. Really, this is what you're doing. This is what you're doing. And they'd send you back to class. They couldn't throw you out. We needed you. And you got a message, overtly or covertly, that you're a hero because you're willing to still be part of Torah Judaism. Today, every kid gets a message. Every kid, overtly or covertly. We don't need you here. I've got 3 people waiting to take your place. Step out of the line and you're out. I've heard people say this, not in Zeh Loshen, but close. We have too many from Jews. Can't find housing, can't find parking, can't find shidduchim, can't find the places in yeshiva. What, we need more? That's what we need, more from Jews. So if we lose a couple, no, you know what I mean? Okay, makes more room for everybody else, People don't say it b'zeh lashon, not so prust. But in one form or another, people are like, I need more. I need more. The brilliance of Project Inspire, and that's really why it's called Project Inspire, is more than one participant came here today and told me on the side, I'm not really here to get involved with non-from people. I'm here to get inspired. Because to be a firm Jew today, and to really feel good about yourself and to really believe in yourself, how many people in this room really believe that they're going to bring Mashiach? But I mean really, like you. You're going to pull out your siddur and you're going to daven mincha and Mashiach is going to come because of you. I have to tell you that most people don't really believe that. You know why? Because we don't need you. We got 3 more people waiting to take your place. Says the Gemara, Bishvili Nivra Olam. There is nobody in the world more important than you. Make no mistake about it. Most of Klal Yisrael is separated away from Torah and mitzvos. And those that are connected, how many of them care enough to be able to come to a weekend where they're going to sit through a davening with the traveling Hasidim, singing and dancing, where they're going to stay up for some kumsitz on a Friday night till 12:30 in the morning? What kind of way is that for a firm Jew to behave? You should have been in bed by 6. You know what I mean? And people are up all night and they're listening to talks and they're running around and they're going like this. There is no stronger, more dedicated, greater group in Klal Yisrael than the people in this room right now, and they're the ones who are going to bring Mashiach. And if you don't believe it, it's because the Yetzer Hara, more than anything, wants you not to believe how important you are. We blow 100 tekiyas. What's the last tekiya for? La'ariv is a satan. Because he'll hear that last tekiya and he'll think Mashiach is coming. Ask Rav Henoch Leibowitz, Zatzal, Rosh Yeshiva of Chavetz Chaim. It's 2,000 years. He's still falling for the same trick. Let him buy a machzah. You know what I mean? Says Rav Henoch, the Satan isn't stupid. We are. Because if you knew how close you were at that moment to bring Mashiach, he's sitting on shpilkes. This is my end. And then everyone says, Baruch Hashem, let's go home and eat lunch. And he says, phew, I made it again. You are so close to changing the world. My goodness, this whole Shabbos, people were telling stories. I met an on-from person over here. I went over and I spoke to them like that. Look at all these poor Bali Tshuva stuck in Flatbush with no one to take care of them. They have to run to Borough Park. It's such a never. I tell you, a lot of people in Flatbush were not happy with that story, let me tell you. Yeah? But I mean, what does that mean? What does that mean? That means that the people in this room, we understand that we have the koyach to change people's lives. And I'm telling you, not just to change people's lives, but to change the course of history. There isn't a lot of time left, right? If you haven't heard this, let me make it very clear. When the Twin Towers went down, I went to Rav Bulman Zatzal, and I said, Rebbe, what's going on? And he said to me, David, this is Gog and Magog. This is the start. I went to Rav Moshe Shapiro, that Chol Hamoed Sukkos. I said, Rebbe, what's going on? He says, David, this is Gog and Magog. This is the end. We are at the end. Somebody took a group of Talmidim of Rav Chaim Kanievsky this past summer, and he said, Mashiach's not coming. He's outside the door knocking. This is it. It's the last minute of the game. You have the ball. I don't know if we're clapping for the ball, for Chaim Kanievsky, for the... I don't mind. I'll take it. It's okay. But this is it. This is the end of time. And it's time that the people in this room woke up. And to say that I'm not important is a luxury we can't afford. That's the Yetzer Hara. He wants to believe that you don't make a difference. And you will change the world. One person changed the world. Avraham Avinu was one person. You think you can't change the world? You think you can't go over and say something to somebody? I met 2 people over this Shabbos who told me that it was my little kids who were Makarev people. They came over the house, and my little kids said something to them that I never would have said, and they changed their lives. And you can't. You can't change the world. You can't change people's lives. We have 1 minute left. And I mean that in many ways. I want to say what a schus it was for me to be able to participate in this, and I really feel bad there were so many other rabbis here. I didn't get to talk nearly enough. But I'm glad that I had this opportunity at the end to share just a few thoughts with you. And I have much more to say. But time is short, and there's food waiting. So you don't want to get in between Jews and their food. I was a scholar in residence at a Pesach hotel where people came over to me the whole Pesach to tell me how I changed their lives. And at the end of the entire Pesach, the entire hotel gave a standing ovation to the chef. So I know my place in the world. I leave you with this challenge. If you go home from this, there is no way to go home from a convention like this and not be inspired. I'm saying now, at the end of the day, we say, Lemaisa, now what? I have to do something. And so I'm going to take some of those shalach manos baskets, and I'm going to give them out to some people, and I'm going to, find the, person who's in charge of the one-on-one learning, and I'm going to sign up because I'm going to go and I'm going to learn with somebody. And I'm going to make a Project Inspire group in my house and have one of the great Project Inspire rabbis come down and speak. Whatever it's going to be. I'm not going to choose for every single person. But I'm telling you that when you walk down the street and you smile at somebody, you change their life. I told this story over in one of my classes, and with this I will conclude. Yeah? And when I taught in the Jerusalem Fellowships in Aish, so a guy would come up to me from time to time and say, Rabbi, you're the biggest challenge to my secular lifestyle. And I said, really, which class did I give? And he said, none, I don't listen when you talk. So I said, so what is it? He goes, I know I'm living this secular lifestyle. I can do anything I want, and I do. And I can't help but feel you're having more fun in life than I am. And I said, kills you, doesn't it? I said, that's right, loser. From Jews have the party. And if everybody in this room walks down the street and you have that smile on your face, that people know that you have something else, that you have something better than everybody else, they will beat a path to your door. Time is running out. We are in the last few minutes of the game. Now is the time for everybody to get off of the bench and to get out there and win the game. Thank you very much.